Lawmakers will receive a classified briefing on the dangers of TikTok today, one day before the House votes on a bill that would force a sale or ban it from the United States. Congresswoman Kat Kamik co-sponsored that bill and is here to set the stage.
And overnight, the Prime Minister of Haiti resigns just after our Secretary of State lands in the Caribbean for an emergency meeting. We'll tell you why. You need to actually care about that, even though it's happening in Haiti. You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Tuesday morning. I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Carla Shim. Gets more on that in just a moment. But we begin in Washington, where Special Counsel Robert Hur will testify for the first time before Congress after his damning report on President Biden's handling of classified documents sparked major questions about the president's mental fitness.
Back in February, Hur wrote in his report, quote, "We have also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. He did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. He did not remember even within several years when his son, Beau, died." Congressman Andy Biggs sits on the House Judiciary Committee and will question her today. Matt Whitaker is a former acting attorney general under former President Trump, and they both join us now.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Congressman, I'm sure that when you read that from Robert Hur's report, you said, I got some follow-up questions, and today's the day that you're going to be able to ask them. So can you give us a preview on what you are going to ask, and how do you think this thing's going to go?
Well, that's a great question. So here's where I go. A couple of things. We're going to focus on Joe Biden's mental capacity, whether if he is so bad off that you can't prosecute him, should he be running the greatest nation in the history of the world? And can he do it, carefully with probity, et cetera? Second thing is we're going to explore all the cavalier ways that Joe Biden left classified documents all over the place. Look, he left code words at a party that he was at up in New York. I mean, so we're going to explore that. And then we're going to get to the third thing that I think is important is, was this willful and intentional? And I think we're going to find that it was willful and intentional. When I say that, was he telling people about this classified information? And the actual reality is he was. And he knew it was classified, and he knew he didn't have authority. He was trained in it for 50 years, good grief, and he's out there passing classified information around. And that's clear violations of the law.
Matt, what could Hur say today that could help Trump defend himself in the Jack Smith charge trial, basically on these same allegations? You hear the mainstream media try to say these allegations are completely different. In reality, they're the same. So what could Hur say today to help Trump's defense?
Yeah, Todd, I think what Rob Hur is going to really try to do is stay within the navigational beacons of his 350-page report. But I think Congress needs to drill down on this important issue, and that is the distinction between those two cases. Because Rob Hur suggests that somehow because President Biden cooperated, that somehow is different from President Trump's case. But actually, if you think about it, the cooperation is illusory because Biden in 2017 knew he had this classified information in his house, in his basement. He mentioned it to his ghostwriter of his book. And I think that tells you that these cases aren't as different as Rob Hur wants to suggest. And so it's going to be very interesting if Congress can tease out if there is any difference, or if they're just treating Joe Biden different in the special counsel situation.
Yeah, Congressman, one of the big things that took place after this report came out was President Biden saying he did not forget when his son Beau Biden died, and he was just shocked that Robert Hur would bring that up. And then it turns out that Robert Hur didn't bring it up. It was the president who brought up his son's death. Can we expect an official clarification on that today, and how will that play out?
Yes, he's going to be asked about that, but he's also going to be asked about what Joe Biden forgot when he was telling the ghostwriter. So it wasn't just in Robert Hur's investigation in those interviews. Joe Biden forgot when he was vice president and other pertinent information of his life when he was describing it to the ghostwriter, and the ghostwriter revealed that in his interviews with Mr. Hur. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of testimony about his mental capacity today, I believe.
Also today, the House will hear from U.S. intel chiefs about worldwide threats to our national security. And yesterday, there was an exchange between FBI Director Christopher Wray and Marco Rubio that's extremely concerning. Watch.
we are seeing a wide array of very dangerous threats that emanate from the border. There is a particular network that has, where some of the overseas facilitators of the smuggling network have ISIS ties that we're very concerned about.
There is a network we're concerned about that has facilitators involved in it that have ties to ISIS and other terrorist organizations.
Correct.
26 people killed 3,000 Americans on 9/11. I worry that among the people that are coming across the border that are evading law enforcement, that there are some people among those that mean to do us harm. Do you share that concern?
I do.
I mean, Matt, hearings are nice and all, but what concrete steps must this administration take to prevent the next 9/11 after, quite frankly, Matt, they allowed this to fester within the last 3 years by being so lax on the border?
Yeah, they're so far behind with 1.8 million gotaways, unknown who they are, why they're here, where they are at. I think that is going to be a real challenge for the FBI. And you heard Chris Wray not only say that this is a problem, but we don't have the resources, and we need more resources to actually do the work to mitigate these risks. I mean, this is a massive and concerning challenge, and I didn't hear any solutions from the intel community. Obviously, Mayorkas has had his own problems in trying to deal with this crisis at the border, but we are in a significant security situation, and we should expect attempts to harm Americans on our own soil because of the southern border.
Yeah, it feels like it's only a matter of time until we pay a price in a big way. Congressman Biggs, Matt Whitaker, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now to this, a Washington state trooper will be honored at a memorial service today after being killed in a crash with an illegal immigrant allegedly driving under the influence.
And meanwhile, the White House still playing cleanup over the president's apology to Laken Riley's accused killer. A live report right after this.
He didn't say, I'd like to talk to you about all the amazing things that people who come to this country illegally do. They're, our favorite shopkeepers. He's talking about a murderer. Right. It totally blew my mind.
A memorial service will be held today for the Washington state trooper who was killed in a high-speed crash involving an illegal migrant who admitted to being under the influence of drugs and alcohol at the time of the crash.
It's just so sad. Madeline Rivera joins us now with more. Maddie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Carly and Todd. Hundreds of people are expected to attend the memorial for Washington State Patrol Trooper Christopher Gadd today. Gadd was killed on March 2nd after investigators say a driver slammed into the back of his parked patrol car in Marysville, just north of Seattle. He was only 27 years old. His family releasing this statement: "We are working through what is undoubtedly the most difficult of times for our family as we mourn the loss of a loving husband, devoted father, caring brother, beloved son, and committed friend." Authorities arrested the suspect, 32-year-old Raul Benitez Santana. Court documents show Benitez Santana admitted to smoking pot and drinking 2 beers hours before the crash. ICE says Benitez Santana is in the country illegally. He's now under an immigration detainer with the Snohomish County Jail. This comes as President Biden faces backlash for calling the man accused of killing 22-year-old Georgia nursing student Laken Riley illegal and then walking that term back.
Laken Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal.
Do you regret using the word illegal to describe immigrants last night, sir?
Well, I don't regret it. It was technically not supposed to be here. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented.
So you regret using that word?
Yes.
Former senior advisor to former President Trump, Stephen Miller, reacting on Hannity.
When it came time to give an apology, to whom did he apologize? He apologized to the criminal alien that stands charged and accused of this savage beating and murder. He said, "I will not disrespect that illegal. I will not call them an illegal. People like him built this country." He complimented him. He praised him. He groveled to him. He apologized to him, and not to the family of this incredible young woman.
But the White House says the president's comments do not amount to an apology.
The president absolutely did not apologize. There was no apology anywhere in that conversation. He did not apologize. He used a different word. The president spoke directly to this in the State of the Union address not 4 nights ago when he spoke passionately about knowing what it means to lose a child and extended his deep grief and condolences to Lake and Riley's family in front of the entire country.
Meantime, President Biden appearing to throw cold water on the possibility of using executive action to address the situation at the southern border.
Mr. President, when is an border executive action coming? An executive action on the border.
Counting on the border action happened by itself, the passing it.
The president's 2025 budget proposal is out and includes more funding for border security. Carly and Todd.
Madeline Rivera live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you. The Gold Star dad of a Marine killed in the 2021 Kabul airport bombing is now doubling down on his condemnation of President Biden after he was arrested for disrupting the State of the Union address.
I was listening to him and I was praying, hoping that maybe at some point prior to this that he had mentioned, Afghanistan and our kids, because all the Gold Star parents were thinking that that might be a possibility, and it wasn't happening. I don't even know what I did. I just jumped up and I said, "Do you remember Abbey Gate?" And it was like the Lord convicted me. The Holy Spirit got in me, because I've been waiting for 3 years for this man to say my son's name into this chamber, and he never did.
Steve Nikki, that understandably heartbroken and angry father, was arrested by Capitol Police. He faces a $500 fine or 90 days in jail, or both.
Unreal. The FAA reportedly finding dozens of issues with Boeing's 737 MAX jet production process during an audit of the company and its supplier Spirit AeroSystems. The audit was launched after that door plug flew off mid-flight back in January. Boeing reportedly failed 33 of 89 product audits, while Spirit AeroSystems failed 7 out of 13. I don't know about you, Carly, but when it comes to the skies, there should be 0 failures all the time.
Hear, hear.
Meantime, a Boeing whistleblower found dead in his truck outside a South Carolina hotel just days after testifying against the aviation giant. John Barnett, quality manager and worked for the company for 32 years before retiring in 2017. According to the Charleston County coroner, Barnett died from a self-inflicted wound.
Todd, it is also election day in several states in this great United States of America. President Biden and former President Trump could both secure their party's nomination for president after today's contests in Georgia, Mississippi, Hawaii, and Washington state. A total of 254 Democrat delegates and 161 Republican delegates are up for grabs today. President Biden already has 1,866 delegates and needs just 102 more to clinch the Democratic nomination. And former President Trump currently has 1,781 delegates and needs just 137 more delegates to become the GOP nominee. You will now all be quizzed on those numbers because you need to remember them.
I told the producers to send me to Hawaii, but they denied that request. It's an important election in Hawaii.
Janice Dean here with our Fox weather forecast. Janice, it's probably warm in Hawaii, isn't it?
Yes. So all of the states that you mentioned, not too many problems. Washington, we do have a storm system that's moving into the northwest. Otherwise, not too bad. And you know what? The northeast, oh my gosh, hurricane force winds almost yesterday. And we had flights that were grounded and delayed and canceled because of the strong winds. Much better today. So there are some of the wind speeds and gusts right now. NYC, 5 miles per hour, 14 miles per hour in Pittsburgh, a little bit higher as you go upwards into the mountains. There's the live radar. We did have some measurable snow, over a foot of snow for parts of upstate New York and New England. That area of low pressure is out of there. But as you can see, our next system moving into the west, that is going to be our cross-country storm that's going to bring all sorts of stuff, including snow, the potential for tornadoes, and very heavy rainfall. So here's our coast-to-coast storm event. Moving into the northwest today, diving across the Rockies and into the Plain States for Thursday and Friday. And that's where we could see the potential for stronger storms. So here's your severe weather threat. That cold front's going to smash into some, warmer than average temperatures. And that's going to be the fuel, along with the Gulf of Mexico moisture that we need for these severe storms, especially Wednesday and Thursday for the red shaded areas. We're getting into the springtime, and that means a ramp up of severe weather, including heavy rain. We could get several inches of rain with this this next storm, and that could cause some flooding concerns. So there's the rest of your day's forecast. Not too bad. 62 here in New York. We're going to bump those temperatures up a little bit. Felt a little bit like winter with those cold winds. And then that storm system moves into the west today.
We will take 62.
Nice.
In
Pretty
March.
nice.
Janice, thank you so much.
You got it.
Okay, turning to some breaking news overnight. Haiti's prime minister has resigned, with the country in full-blown chaos. And the turmoil could have impacts on politics and security. Here at home, we have the breaking details.
Plus, have you heard this?
Oh, come on. We're in a house of God. First, simmer down.
Simmer down now. That was Attorney General Letitia James being booed by New York City firefighters. Now the FDNY is reprimanding them for booing her. You don't want to miss the latest on this story. Keep it right here. Fox and Friends for.
Good to see you, Todd. So Haiti has been an issue for the American strategic community since around 2010 when there was an earthquake. If you remember, after 2010, the Clinton Foundation installed a president and raised a whole bunch of money. The president who was installed was not very popular. Around 2016, that changed. And from 2017 onwards, there has been chaos in the country. So Haiti is important because, on one hand, it is a community which is extremely opposed to any kind of foreign intervention. On the other hand, they don't really have any law and order. As you might remember, like I am opposed to as any intervention in Latin America as probably Robert Taft. But this is one country which actually merits. Our border in the south is open. The fundamental problem of the American people is they don't know who is being led into their country by this government. Haiti is run by essentially criminal gangs who are cannibals. Whenever there is an intervention in that country and there is a restoration of order by a foreign force, those criminal gangs will first flee to Cuba and then to Mexico and then to the U.S. That is the primary strategic concern for the Americans.
Okay, so to be clear, we should expect an influx of Haitian migrants at the border, and these migrants are not necessarily the woman with 3 kids coming here to work 2 jobs. They are people in these gangs, correct?
You are absolutely right. We already have a lot of Haitian immigration happening from Mexico since 2010, since the earthquake, and in the recent days when their former president was murdered and Ariel Henry was installed. Since then, there has been gang violence and there has been sporadic immigration, but that would increase. The threat we are talking about in the future is a whole different game. This is ISIS-like scenario. At this point of time, the Haitian capital is divided into blocks. There are primarily 4 blocks, with one of the blocks being led by a former police officer named Barbecue for some reason. So he is one of the most, atrocious person to lead sort of like a counterinsurgency, as his primary indication was like he wanted the current president to stand down. I don't personally think that he's going to stop. I think what would happen is there might be a local intervention if he doesn't stop. And at that point of time, the threat increases.
This is terrifying because, like you said, these individuals are going to come across our border and then we don't know what happens because, let's face it, we don't know what happens to most of the individuals who come across our border. Dr. Matra,
That's right.
Thank you for this warning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, come on. We're in a house of God. First, simmer down. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins for that recognition.
The FDNY is now scolding those firefighters who booed New York Attorney General Letitia James and cheered for former President Trump at a promotion ceremony last week, saying, quote, when you're not on duty, feel however you want about politicians, vote, protest, that's your right, but don't do it on the job's time, on other members' time, or on their family's time. Do it on your own time. Joanne Ariola is a New York City councilwoman and chairperson of the NYC Committee on Fire and Emergency Management, and joins us now. Councilman, good morning to you. It's not just that statement that the FDNY released. They also say that they're collecting video to identify the people who protested. And then what, Councilwoman? What's going to happen to these firefighters once they're identified?
Well, when you start receiving emails that say, we will hunt you down, there's video with your images on it, and you will be brought in for education, and that your fellow firefighters should tell the administration, who was participating in this behavior, that sounds a little like McCarthyism to me.
Wow. Yeah. And I think context is key here, because there was an op-ed written in the New York Post by Andrew Ansborough. He's the president of the FDNY Uniformed Firefighters Association. And he says that this event is kind of like a fun free-for-all where people in the past have booed speakers and they cheer speakers when they like it. They bring air horns. They yell and shout. It's not like this buttoned up thing. And he also points out that the FDNY brass were sitting right there during this event and didn't speak up, didn't say anything to tamp down the protesters. It wasn't until hours later when they realized, okay, we got to do something about this. So this is where it starts to feel political, and these firefighters could get reprimanded for political reasons.
And there should be no retribution for this. This isn't the first time that booing happened. I mean, Mayor de Blasio was booed by the police department multiple occasions. And we all saw what happened to the police department during the de Blasio administration and how it was destroyed and dismantled. And we cannot let remnants from that administration mar this administration and do that to our firefighters.
Yeah. Do you think, Councilwoman, that these firefighters could lose their jobs?
They absolutely should not lose their jobs. This was their First Amendment right. And what was really the thing that was bothering them about the chant? If they were chanting Tish, 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 would it have been a problem? If they were chanting Biden, 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 would it have been a problem? But they were chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. So was that the problem? Right. That shouldn't be the problem. That's their First Amendment. Good
question. And those firefighters were booing the Attorney General for a reason. Want to get to this. There's another example of how the border crisis is impacting New York City as well as people around the country. When it comes to this, illegal immigrants with ties to MS-13 are apparently selling fake IDs and fake Social Security cards. They're selling them on the streets to other illegal immigrants. And the thing with this is that these cards are fake, but the numbers are real. It could be any one of our numbers on these cards. So that raises major concerns on how it could impact us. And also there are security concerns tied to this.
Well, it's pure and simple identity theft. And it was only a matter of time before this would become a new entrepreneurial business, because the illegal migrants that have come into this city and want to go to work as deliveristas and such, they needed these types of cards to do those businesses, or they needed IDs to get into places. Right. These are not being gained for good reason. These are being gained for bad reasons. We do have asylum seekers who are here, who are looking for a better life, but we have more bad actors that came from their country of origin to our country to bring the same type of behavior that it was the same type of bad behavior they were exhibiting in their own country to our country. And we're seeing that. Yes, we're seeing that because we have our officers being beaten by illegal migrants, and we have fatalities at our base camps, illegal migrant on illegal migrant crime.
And it should be noted that the brother of Laken Riley's murder suspect had a fake green card on him as well. Councilwoman Ariola, thank you so much for joining us. All right, staying in New York City, the city is going after pizza shops with a brand new climate regulation that could cost shop owners big time. We're doing this again.
And what a day for the NFL, from Kirk Cousins to somebody else. Traitor! The league's been turned upside down at the start of free agency. Tommy Lahren and Cheryl Casoni here to break it all down and, make sure my mental state's okay.
Good morning, Carly and Todd. This is Michael Glass from Boca Raton, Florida. I look forward to waking up with you every morning to find out the truth of what happened the day before as well as what's happening today.
February Consumer Price Index will be released this morning, putting inflation back in the spotlight as President Biden continues to tout Bidenomics on the campaign trail.
Cheryl Casoni from our sister network Fox Business here with the details. Hey, Cheryl.
Yeah, good morning. So we're going to get a key read on inflation today, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. The Consumer Price Index gives us a window into what Americans are paying for when it comes to food, gas, and shelter, which has been the biggest component. That stubborn high inflation, one of the reasons President Biden has had low polling numbers when it comes to his handling of the U.S. economy. After about a month-long delay, President Biden finally revealing his fiscal 2025 budget. It clocks in at a whopping $7.3 trillion. Here's the president.
The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut. $2 trillion tax cut that benefits the very wealthy in the top 1%, the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit. Last administration added more to the national debt than any presidential term in American history. Debt. Not, you turn on TV and you think he's telling the truth.
So that budget increases defense spending, domestic spending, expands Medicare and Medicaid, commits $260 billion to affordable housing. It also restores a COVID-era tax credit, money for child care for families that make $200,000 or less, a $10,000 credit for first-time home buyers, as well as billions for affordable housing units, and then billions more towards reducing the cost of college. Now, the president plans to pay for this offset, they call it, by, of course, taxing the wealthy and corporations, including increasing the corporate tax rates 28% and installing a minimum tax for billion-dollar corporations, a hefty percentage, as you can see on your screen. Now, House Republicans are calling the budget more reckless spending. They've proposed $14 trillion in spending cuts. And just a reminder, as all of this now kicks into gear, this argument, the current national debt, we are sitting at $34.5 trillion. What
does that even mean?
Yeah, a lot of zeros. That's what that means.
Man.
Hey, Cheryl, so Nick Saban's going to be hanging out with Senator Ted Cruz later today. Tell us why.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going to be holding this round table, and it's going to be interesting because the fight over the future of college athletes is heading to Capitol Hill today. So Senator Cruz from Texas is hosting this roundtable discussion. As you mentioned, Nick Saban's going to be there, other athletic stars. They want to shine the light on the issue of name, image, and likeness. You're going to see this a lot. It's called NIL.
tiên mình sẽ tại phòng trọng ma thuật với 5 mẫu móc đơn. Sau đó chúng ta sẽ cắt hàng từ hàng số 2 đến hàng số 5, chúng ta sẽ móc 5 mẫu đơn.